I'm gonna take my sweet old time. I'm tagging followers. Y'all bums. Welcome to Wire2Wire Sports Podcast, episode 223. I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walzak. In the upper left corner, we got Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, the Ohio State University's own, College Control.
Gene, I thought this would be a much more live show. I thought we were going to be celebrating two Big Ten teams in the national championship, and I see you're already off to more of a somber start there. So
I had the jersey ready. I have the Saquon Penn State jersey. It's right there. I had it ready. If the Penn State Nittany Lions won, I was rocking the Penn State. If not, I'm going to rock the Philadelphia Eagles. Because I got a lot to celebrate this time of year. But Penn State Nittany Lions aren't one of them. We're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about Penn State, what happened in that game. Drew Auer. Oof, yuck. By the way, anybody blaming Franklin? Look, I don't like Franklin. I'm not a Franklin guy. That was not Franklin. That was Drew freaking Auer pissing down his leg during the biggest moment of his career. Upper right corner, Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally, Mr. Willie S. Bill Shellcross.
Gentlemen, Secret Trail chose to start the show with a little bit of shade and a little bit of violence.
All right, the vibes. That's all.
Man's hurting. You don't gotta come on like that.
Here's the truth, right? Ever since Cottrell stopped working with me, this is the truth, right? Cottrell has taken shots at me and has zero sympathy for me at all. I don't even know if we're friends anymore. I don't even know if I feel like we do a podcast together, but that's it. It's just shot after shot after shot, and he hurts my feelings.
Be honest with the people. Let them know that even when we work together, I was still taking shots at you.
Well, I've always loved you, Cottrell, but you're a pain in my ass. We got trivia tonight. We got college football. We're going to break down the games that happened. We're going to preview the national championship. We got the NFL. We have a wild card weekend. Not really that wild. Kind of actually boring, if I'm being honest with you. I hate being that guy. I love football. I watched every game. Not a lot of games were good. Just calling it like it is. I'm battling a cold, so if I sound a little congested, I apologize. We got a lot to roll into tonight. A little UFC action. And then as always, you got to be kidding me. But let's start talking about the game that happened last Thursday night. And the Penn State Nittany Lions versus the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I'll be honest with you. I've never seen a case of a team pissing down their leg more than what Penn State did in that football game. Good football game. Got to give all the credit in the world to Notre Dame. Notre Dame played great defense. Penn State did exactly what I thought they would do. They forced the ball to the tight end. They ran the ball frequently with the K-Train and Singleton. Singleton actually had a better game than K-Tron Allen, which I was shocked about. Penn State's defense looked dominant for the majority of the game, outside of tripping over their own legs and allowing a 70-yard touchdown to tie the game at 24-24. Penn State's defense looked good, and they looked even better when they made a stop to give Penn State the ball back with, I think it was 58 seconds left. They ran the ball first down. I'll set the stage for you guys. I'll set a stage. They ran the ball first down to see what they can get. Singleton got them 12 yards, got them in somewhat of a range where, hey, maybe we could take a shot at kicking a game-winning field goal and not play for overtime. I was okay with that. The communication to Drew Auer has to be, if it's there, hum it in. If it's not, take the sack, play for overtime. It is what it is. Our defense has been great all day. Let's allow that to happen. I don't know what else to tell you at that point. At that point, throwing the ball across your body, getting intercepted, trying to force a play, you've ruined all those kids' opportunities to play a national championship. And I blame it not 100% on Drew Auer. I'll go 90% on Drew Auer. Drew Auer played a terrible game. He was not good. He was bad in this football game. And for a guy that was touted, and listen, he's had his moments. He's been great some portions this year. But when the moment got biggest, Drew Auer got small. Your thoughts, gentlemen?
I I think on the surface, a lot of what you said is true. I think some of it's maybe a tad harsh, but I understand what you're saying in regards to ruining their season and etc. But I mean, it's always that like conundrum of are you going to blame somebody trying to be aggressive and try to make a play, trying to win versus we could all sit here and say they go to overtime, who knows what happens. But listen, I mean, he made one bad decision. You even heard in his his post game press conference, he was just trying to throw it low to give only his receiver a shot and nothing else. And he actually just threw it a little too well. I would agree with you that he didn't have a good game. I thought I did. It was one thing I did actually write down as because I was watching the game, especially the beginning. He had that decent first drive, and then after that, he looked shaky. He looked jittery. He looked a little bit like he knew the lights were bright and what was going on. Like it looked like it was getting to him a little bit. But on the other hand, he made a couple really, really good throws in big time spots too. I think it's a situation of I think Riley Leonard made his mistakes at the beginning of the game, and Drew unfortunately made his at the end. And I thought I was solely convinced that I thought whichever quarterback played better and played better down the stretch, that team was going to win, and that's what happened. He just threw a really bad pass at a really, really bad time. I thought defense looked great, like you said. The one touchdown was a fluke. The kid fell down. If he doesn't fall down, that might be a catch. It's sure as hell not a touchdown. It's one of those weird things where I walk away from the game and I'm still thoroughly convinced that Penn State's the better football team. And you got to give Notre Dame credit. When it mattered, they like I said, they made their mistakes early. Riley Leonard had 2 awful interceptions early in the game, like awful. But they had luck of the Irish, whatever you want to call it, the kid falling down, and then at the end, they got a couple first downs and they made the kick when they had to. I feel like you play this game 10 more times, Penn State probably wins 7 or 8. But it matters what you do when you do it, and that's the part of sports that we all love. It's the absolute 100% real and reality of sports. There's nothing fake or scripted, but it's also on the other side that's the heartbreaking part of sport. That's the heartbreaking part for Drew Aller. He's got to live with that all off season. Those kids got to live with it. But I don't know. Maybe they go. Maybe he goes on the JJ redemption tour. Maybe he comes back a better quarterback next year. He's got both running backs coming back. We'll see how he handles it and responds, because it's going to show a lot about his character and what his prospects are going to be in the NFL. But I thought it was a good football game. I thought it was exactly what we were going to get. I think we all did. It was going to be an old school type run first, battle it out, come down to the end. Nobody thought it was going to be a blowout. And I thought it was a good football game. Somebody was going to have to lose. That's the way it was going to be. I just think it sucks to watch it in a heartbreaking fashion like that. And you could see it all over his face in the press conference. You could barely talk without crying. But he made a mistake, and that's, like I said, that's the harsh reality of sports. You pay for them sometimes. And
I think that game was lost by Penn State by 2 plays. 2 plays. There were 2 plays in that football game that I felt like were the difference between winning and losing, between living and dying. Well, 3 if you count the guy, but I don't fault the kid for falling down. But I guess 3. But the errant throw that was a little bit short of Nick Singleton that would have led to the first touchdown of the game that hit him in his leg. I think Singleton should catch that ball. It's a running back. It's not a wide receiver. I don't know who you want to blame that on, but that play was there to be.
That's on Drew Aller, 100%.
It's behind them, but Singleton's got to catch that, right? Am I wrong?
I would agree for a quarterback of that caliber, like Cottrell said, he's got to make a better throw there. At the same time, I still think it's a very catchable football.
Singleton does have to catch it, but also as a running back, you're going to you're expecting it in front of you. So then you reach back. There's a defender back there too. So a lot of moving parts there. I think Singleton should have caught it. I agree there, but I think if Aller puts that on the money,
it's there. He wasn't pressured.
Exactly.
And then the second one would be the interception that he threw. at the end of the game because you never know what happens in overtime. I feel like with Penn State's defense, the way that we're rolling and not having to worry about the big play, I don't know if Notre Dame scores a touchdown from the 25 one time in overtime. Whereas I think with Penn State's running game, I think they could have gotten the end zone. That's not for here nor there. The game's over. But Drew Aller, and listen, we talk about him in a press conference, he's a kid. Guys, at what point these kids are being paid? Don't take this the wrong way. I don't care about bashing a kid. I don't care about bashing a kid.
I mean, you could bash them, but I mean, I still think that
5-star kids, 20 years old,
have the emotion. They have the emotion of the game. Still. Like
the money doesn't make you mature faster or get less emotional faster. Yeah, you criticize and bash them, whatever.
Yeah, like I'm fine with that. But I mean, I think that's where the emotion comes from because it's like, damn, like this happened to me, and I got to go to chemistry on Tuesday, and everybody in the classroom. Everybody in the classroom knows I'm the reason why we're not going to the national championship game. So, correct. I mean, it's a lot to have on your shoulders. And to your point, I mean, you are right. Like they definitely, are getting paid, and you want to feel like a professional athlete. Well, this is what comes with it. So, I mean, I definitely hear you there. But as far as the game goes, I think the biggest thing for me was that it was like I don't want to say a tale of two halves because that wouldn't be doing it justice, but it almost felt like Notre Dame benefit from Riley Leonard going out and having that concussion scare because the backup came in, gave them a spark offensively, but then it also lit a fire under Riley when he came back in the second half and he was like, "Hey, well, my backup is throwing balls. They're humming through the air. Like I got to make sure I'm putting it in on offense where we're scoring points because if Marcus Freeman thinks that he's going to give us a better opportunity to win." He probably won't think twice about, pulling me and, putting this guy back in there. So that injury there was kind of the thing that ignited that Notre Dame offense. And to me, I think Penn State was consistent throughout the game there. But you talk about Drew Aller and, I don't want to just keep piling on the kid, but there was just so many opportunities. Like you talk about the two big ones because those get highlighted. But, I mean, there was throws to keep the drive going. Hell, even the interception that wasn't one. The throw in the end zone to Tyler Warren, it was triple coverage. They called the pass interference to bail him out there. That pass interference had nothing to do with that play there. Like I personally would have been okay if they just held that in their back pocket and said, "Hey, it was an interception. Yes, there was contact here, but it didn't affect the play at all." Like I get it, letter of the law thing. I'm perfectly fine with how they called it, but I mean that was just another example of a just poor decision making. And you brought it up on the show last week, Gene, about how, you were worried about him forcing the ball to Tyler Warren because you knew Notre Dame would try to make a, concerted effort to make sure that he wasn't the guy to beat you. And for the most part, they did a pretty good job of that. And I think it's pretty indicative if you look at the box score afterwards and you see that not one Penn State receiver had one catch in the entire game. And
I know exactly where you're going with that. 0 receptions.
And you see that. And to think Penn State still had an opportunity to win this football game just blows your mind. Katron and Nick Singleton. Nick Singleton was the better back in this one. I do agree with you there. But for Notre Dame, man, I give them all the credit in the world because week after week on this show, like throughout the playoffs, I've said you can't make like when you make a mistake, they're going to pounce. When you make a mistake, Notre Dame's going to pounce. And granted, that's what they did in the sense of that's how they kicked the walk-off field goal. But even before that, man, they were down in that game. Penn State had things rolling. They said, you know what? We're going to put together a drive. Jeremiah Love, you're not 100%. You're going to go out there. You're going to lead us all the way down. We're going to punch it in the end zone. And, ultimately they responded with that 70-yard touchdown that they had when the defender fell as well. But, I mean, Notre Dame's a team that just does not give up at all. And then, again, it just reared its head again, though. They get turnover late, go down, kick the field goal, and I was in our group chat literally on Mark. I was ready to get on Marcus Freeman, ready to tell him like, hey, this is why you're going to blow an opportunity to go to the national championship game. They go back-to-back run plays, and it just felt like they were playing it safe for a 50-yard field goal. I'm like, that is not guaranteed in college. But then they do the rollout, Riley Leonard. He throws the pass, gets them the first down, gets some much, much better field position. That is ultimately how you win games like this. So give a ton of credit to Marcus Freeman not being scared of the moment there, and then ultimately, moving forward there and punching his ticket to the national championship game.
All right, so, and listen, I'll tell you, Marcus Freeman's halftime speech. We're down 7. We got the ball. I love that. I love listening to him. We're in a fight. Ain't time to be scared. We're in a fight. I loved his speech, man. I would trade coaches tomorrow with Notre Dame, not thinking twice, right? I love this speech. Now, in a game where I felt like the players decided the game in Penn State and Notre Dame, and the mistakes made by a player decided the game, you move into Ohio State, Texas, and I'm telling you right now, just like I said with Penn State, Notre Dame, I think two plays decide this game. And granted, coming away from that game, I felt like Ohio State was the better football team. But Texas did everything that they set out to do. They shut down the wide receiver room. They limited Will Howard from throwing the ball to their top wide receivers, and they did that. They came out and did that. They did a good job controlling the line of scrimmage, only 3.4 yards per carry versus both running backs. Awesome job there. Where Sark and Texas miss me is two plays. One, look, I don't know if we can give it one play just a positive for Chip Kelly and Ohio State. The play before the half can't happen. That screen pass to Trevion Henderson for 75 yards right after Texas ties the game. It looks like it's going to be tied going into half. That cannot happen. You cannot allow that to happen. And you can hear the announcer. This guy can take it deep from any. Oh, there he goes. He's gone. And then you get first and goal at the 1 yard line. 21-14 game. You run the ball up the middle, you get stuffed. Okay. You have the line of screen. You pay so much money for those offensive linemen. You run a pitch toss play and lose 7 yards to get the 3rd and goal? No. You're down 7 points. Worst case scenario. I sneak it 4 times directly up the middle. If I don't get it, I make Ohio State take over the ball at the half yard line. And if they drive the ball and at least they get in their shot, right? They'd have to go about 60 yards to get in the field position to take a 2-score lead. No, didn't happen. Run the ball up the middle, get stuffed, pitch the ball on the outside. Terrible, lose 7 yards. And then Quinn Ewers trying to make a play on 3rd goal, gets the ball stripped, sacked, fumbled, and returned to the house. Those 2 plays were the difference in that football game. Granted, like I said, I felt like Ohio State was the better football team. But a lot of things can change. Different play calls, different situations in those 2 play calls.
I mean, for me, I would say biggest takeaway, like from the first half of the game, was before that Trevion Henderson screenplay, was him getting the personal foul, 15-yard penalty. That changed the entire momentum of the Ohio State offense, because then you get behind the sticks there, ultimately led to a punt. And that was just really the theme of the first half there. It was self-inflicted wounds. Like, Trevion's not a guy to typically – he was quite literally on the entire roster of starters. He's probably the last guy I would expect to have an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. That's just not who he is. And then moving forward, like, you have these holding penalties that were good calls. Like, I'm not even, getting on the refs here. They were good calls, but it's just self-inflicted wounds. Like, that's getting you behind the sticks. Now you're looking at 2nd and 25. You're looking at 3rd and 20. And Texas was doing a good job of playing shell coverage where they were bracketing, Jeremiah Smith or bracketing Emeka, depending on, where they were at in the formation. So it's tough to get chunk plays like that on the Texas defense. That's literally allowing you to, if you get the 10-yard play here, cool. That's fine. We're not letting you kill us for 40. If you get the 15-yard play, cool. We're not letting you kill us for 60. So when you put yourself behind the sticks like that, you're in a really tough spot. So give Texas a ton of credit for what their game plan was defensively. You could definitely see that it had an impact on the Ohio State offense. But the screenplay before the half, I thought it was rather interesting because that in that situation that Ohio State's not going to be too aggressive. It's going to be a draw play or it's going to be a screenplay. Like, I mean, that's just any level of football. You're expecting to see that kind of play happen. Texas sent a blitz, and it literally ran right into the teeth of the screen there, and ultimately that's what sprung it free there. So I thought that was just very, very questionable, play calling, maybe because they felt like they were getting that momentum. They wanted to see if they can make a play with Ohio State, trying to be aggressive, make a turnover happen. But clearly that bit them. I feel like that's a low risk, low reward kind of play there. So I don't know, why that play call would have been called there. But to just get over to the goal line, I mean, I think that when you see Ohio State's been the best team in the country on the goal line about all year. I mean, you've seen stops in a lot of their big games, the Penn State game, the first Oregon game, even the Michigan game where Jack Sawyer gets the interception. They've been great at the goal line. So coming in, you see all that stuff on film. You're like, hey, these guys are good down there. Let's figure out what we can do. So you run it right at them the first time. It gets stuffed. Never had a chance. And then you call the toss play. I am never, ever, ever calling toss when I only need 1 yard. That is literally putting yourself in a position for failure, essentially. I mean, there's so much that can go wrong in that much space, especially when you have guys that can fly around all over the field. And hell, what makes that call even worse is that we literally saw Ohio State do it earlier in the same game. It was a 3rd and 1 play call, and they ran a toss to Quinshon Judkins, and Texas snuffed it out, and we lost yards, and we ultimately end up punting. Like, that alone would just let me know, like, the guys in this game, they're too good of athletes. Like, you're not getting a lineman to go reach Caleb Downs. You're not getting a lineman like for us. We weren't getting a lineman to go reach, Makuba to go make a play, against Texas. So, I mean, I just think that was it was probably very calculated. I think going in, that was their game plan. They're like, hey, we know we can't get them between the tackles. And Sark even said that in the post-game presser. We're like, we don't have the advantage between the tackles. They've been very good there. We tried to make a play on the outside, and the numbers were there. But you got to just realize that athletes are going to fly around, just like how they flew around in the first half when you did it against Ohio State. So,
hey, Charles, can I tell you what I would have did? Can I give you my take on
sure.
what I would have did? If it wasn't quarterback sneak 4 times, let's just say I was really worried about Ohio State having the athletes up front. Why not spread? Why not run a 4 wide receiver set, run shotgun inside zone? Why not spread Ohio State out, get 5-6 guys outside of the box, and spread?
Yeah, I mean,
I just feel like there's a million different ways to run against that defense. Oregon did that, and successfully, I might add.
That and it's come on. It sounds like Arch wasn't 100% after he took the first hit in the first half, but I trot out Arch as well. I mean, Arch had been your guy. Like if you trust Arch on 4th and 1, you trust him in the red zone with the game on the line. Like, in my opinion, like that's how you kind of think about that. Because if they don't get that 4th and 1 play earlier, and that gives the ball for Ohio State right at midfield, they go down and score. We're talking about a completely different ball game. So that play that Arch had was huge. And if Texas would have won, we'd be looking back at it like that was a pivotal point in the game. So I don't know how you don't put Arch in the game there. I hate the toss call, but ultimately, you got to give credit to Ohio State defensive line and just the defense in general. They've been stingy all outside of the lone game where they looked penetrable was the first Oregon game, and they came back and they made up for that in the second game, and pretty much every game so far this season they've held up their end of the bargain. So just wanted to give those guys a ton of credit there.
Shai, what'd you think?
No, I mean, I think the pitch toss on 2nd and goal is indefensible. To both your guys' points, there's just a million other plays you can run there. Even if you don't want to run it, but even if you just stay in a goal line set, you can run play action, try to get your tight ends out in the back of the end zone to the flat, catch an easy pick. There's just so many smarter, bona fide plays that we see all teams run over and over that work down there. Like you guys said, I'm running the ball 3 more times. If they stop me, they stop me. They're getting the ball back at that point on, the half-yard line. And if I get a quick stop, I'm getting the ball right back at midfield again. I'm just not going out that way. That's just stupid. I think Sark absolutely, outsmarted himself. Like Cottrell said, you saw it earlier in the game. You saw both defenses were flying to the ball. They're just too fast. You're not going to get a pulling tackle, like Cottrell said, around the end to get on a linebacker before to beat the running back there. It's just not going to happen. It's too small a space. It's too confined. You can only do so many things. To try to spread somebody out into a boundary, it's just dumb. I thought he got out coached there. He definitely outsmarted himself. And then I third down, just an execution play. I don't necessarily hate that play call. I didn't love that either, but I mean, you have to block Jack Sawyer off the blind side. I mean, you can't whiff for the guy and just be like, whoops, that's not, that was the end of the game. So, got to give Ohio State credit. They're playing well. They're playing with a lot of confidence. And I think it's gonna take something. I think it's gonna take something crazy or special from Notre Dame to probably pull off the upset on Monday.
Well, segue, Shally, we'll lead right into the national championship, which does happen Monday. Opened up at a 9.5-point spread for Ohio State. You have your national championship here. Ohio State, the 7 versus the 8. So everybody had on their bingo boards coming into this. But Notre Dame versus Ohio State, national championship. Cottrell, I'll do you the same justice I gave Shally last year. You get this far, I hope you finish it. I'll be happy for you. As much as I hate Ohio State, I will be happy for you. It's like it would be like the Browns getting the Super Bowl versus anybody but the Eagles. I'll be rooting for the Browns. Just like last year, Michigan getting the national championship, I was rooting for Michigan. I'm rooting for you. Take it home. I do love Marcus Freeman, but I will say this. This is a road to the playoffs where you deserved this matchup, right? You took out Oregon, Tennessee, Texas, 3 of the top 10 teams in the nation, in my opinion. You get Notre Dame, another top 10 team in the nation, in my opinion. It'll be interesting to see how the game plays out. If I was given a full breakdown on it, I think Will Howard's the only person that can lose this football game for you. I truly believe that. I think your defense will be strong enough to limit Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's going to get theirs. Riley Leonard's going to move the ball. It's going to happen at times. I think Notre Dame's defense is going to be good enough to limit you. But if you don't make the big errors, the turnovers, hand the ball to Notre Dame, force something, I don't see a way where Ohio State loses this game. Either one of y'all can go.
Your team, you want to go first? You want to go last?
I'll go. I'll get it out the way here.
Good.
So, for me, Gene, I think that's a good point. I mean, if Will Howard limits his turn, if Will Howard doesn't turn the ball over at all the entire game, then I truly think it'd be a tough uphill battle for Notre Dame. With that said, though, I don't want to count out this Notre Dame team. I know the spread is at 8.5 now. Like Gene said, it was originally at 9.5. So I think that this Notre Dame team, like, they can score in a multitude of ways. We saw them get the turnover, the strip sack in the game against Georgia a couple weeks ago. We've seen them return a kick again, game against Georgia. We've seen them intercept the ball on Drew Aller late in the game, put themselves in a position to kick a field goal, even when Riley Leonard was struggling for a big portion of the game. This Notre Dame team is one that is going to fight, and they're going to fight like hell. They're well coached, and they're able to not just score on offense, but just find little ways to affect the game. So I think that's always something scary to look out for. I think the big thing, though, for me in this one is that I think it's a bad matchup for Notre Dame. Notre Dame has been the best man coverage team all season. Defensive, they had a great defense. They play a ton of man coverage. I just don't think for what Ohio State has weapons-wise, I just don't think it would be smart for them to come out and run man coverage, a lot of the game. Because I think if you do that, then you're leaving, Jeremiah Smith. I don't think there's anybody in the country that can cover him one-on-one. And, just with all those guys, with all the motion that Chip Kelly likes to do, I just think it'll put Notre Dame in a really tough spot there. But I will say, Notre Dame they will send blitzes. And so if you can get Ohio State behind the sticks and, make them like Texas did, make them work and make them try to convert, second in 25s or third and 18s and things like that, then things start to get a bit scary. And I also think on the flip side of it, Texas also did a really good job of getting their running back production in the passing game. They had 2 touchdowns, going to their running back, and I 100% think Notre Dame is going to see that on film, and they're going to say, hey, Jeremiah Love and, Williams out the backfield is going to be key against, Sonny Styles and the rest of those linebackers there. So I definitely think Notre Dame will have some tricks up their sleeve to try and slow this game down and, essentially, I don't want to say, follow the Michigan blueprint to the T, but really just find a way to have it as a one-possession game in the fourth quarter there, because then that's when they're going to be in their striking distance. But ultimately, for me, I think Ohio State's offense is going to be too much. I think will probably give us away 1, but I don't think it's just going to, break anybody's back here. I like Ohio State to win. I'm going to officially go 28-13. I think the Notre Dame offense struggles, and the defense continues to hold serve there.
I got a 31-20. I know I didn't give my breakdown of the score. I have a 31-20 Ohio State. Callie, good. On you.
So keys to the game for both sides for me. Riley Leonard has to be great. And by great, I mean, I think he probably has to have the game of his life. He cannot turn the ball over like he did against Penn State. He cannot force the ball against that secondary. I think he needs to be more decisive with his reads. The one thing that he has that Drew Aller doesn't, he has the ability to drop back, and if the first 2 reads aren't there, go get 5, 6, 7 yards. If you do that enough, you'll keep drives alive. You'll keep the ball out of Ohio State's offense's hands. I think it'll be a critical part of the game. Second for me, it's got to be Jeremiah Love till they die. And I mean, if it requires him carrying the ball 30 times a game, if he can handle it, if his knee's fine, which by all indications by watching him last week it is, you have to get the ball in that kid's hands as many times as you can. The kid's special. He's just magic. And then on top of that, defensively, I think a lot of what Cottrell already said. I think if you're going to go man, you're obviously going to keep a safety over top of wherever Jeremiah is, which was pretty much what Michigan did all game. But your front 4 have to win then. They have to win. You can keep a linebacker in if you have to, and if you're going to bring blitzes every now and then on short downs with short yards to go, you can do that. But your front 4 have to win. They have to win. They cannot let they can't let Junkins and Henderson go nuts, because if you do, then you have to come out of what you want to do, and then you're just going to lead to big plays, and then it can get ugly. I think Notre Dame has a good enough defense, and I do think they'll move the ball well enough to stay in the game. I do. I don't think I've seen a lot of people predicting 20, 24-point blowouts. I don't see that. I don't. Ohio State, I think it's really as simple, as you got to go out and play your game. Play your game. If you play your game and you play clean, I just think they're the better football team. And most of the time, that should come out with a win. Will Howard has to have a good game. Again, I don't think he necessarily needs to outshine Riley Leonard. I just think he has to do his job. If he goes out and does his job, doesn't turn the ball over, takes what's there, same kind of thing. If it's not there, go scramble, get 4 or 5 yards, get out of bounds. And just one of those things where, we haven't seen it in the last couple of weeks. We really haven't seen it since the Michigan game. They just can't be afraid to be themselves. Just go out and do what's going to work. Run Travion, run Judkins, and throw the ball for that. And if you do that, I think the defense is playing great. I think Jim Knowles, to his credit, really has, them kind of dialed in right now. I think it comes down to Notre Dame's offense versus Ohio State's defense. I think the advantage there is Ohio State. So I picked them in the beginning of the year for the reason I thought they were the most balanced team in the country with what they had coming back, and they're the national championship game now. I'm not gonna switch it now. I think Ohio State wins 31-21.
I had 31-20. I'm not far off from you. All right, gentlemen. Well, obviously, you get a full breakdown of the game Saturday. Definitely tune into that. You'll get a full back-to-back breakdown. I'm sure you guys are going to cover more than just the game, but
Alex has 30 reasons why Notre Dame's going to win already, probably, I'm sure.
I love it. So make sure you tune in to Coast to Coast, Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 7 a.m. for you Pacificers. But we got to move on. Got a little NFL action to get into. Guys, before we talk about the playoffs, we'll recap in a minute. Dallas Cowboys let go Mike McCarthy. In typical Cowboy fashion, they waited until the last possible minute. You know what I love about the Dallas Cowboys? I hope Wayne's still listening. I love that the Dallas Cowboys have Jerry Jones making these decisions. I love that. It absolutely makes me smile because if you look at how long it took for them to pay Dak, they blew that. If you look at how long it took for them to pay CeeDee Lamb, they blew that. If you look at how long they're taking to pay Micah Parsons, they're going to blow that. They have Mike McCarthy in a lame duck year. They don't allow him to interview for Chicago. Then they decide to let him go. I think it's hilarious. So let's talk about the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. We didn't have them on our coaching carousel last week. I'm nervous that I don't think they'll do it. But I'm nervous that they'll get one of those high priority offensive coordinators, offensive gurus, the Ben Johnsons, the Joe Brady's. They might look at it like, oh, I have a star quarterback. I have a star wide receiver. I have, all this money, owners that shows you he's going to spend money. They might look at that job as attractive. Coach Prime, have a conversation with Jerry Jones, came away from the conversation with, happy with things, how things are in Boulder. It's an honor to be talking to Jerry and, didn't say yes, didn't say no. I'd love your thoughts on the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, guys.
I think it's attractive, obviously, because, it's Dallas. It's America's team, the whole bright lights and all that. You are going to get the best of, facilities and, resources, like you said. Jerry Jones is not one to, skip out on pennies on anything in regards to that football team. But that being said, if you take an objectively hard look at it, I don't know how attractive that job is. You have Dak, who you say star quarterback. I would say he's a good quarterback. CD's locked up, obviously. He's top 5 no matter how you slice it, probably top 3. You don't have a running back. You have an aging offensive line that is going to be another year older next year. And arguably your best player is not going to be under contract. You got to see how that's going to play out. And they're not in the greatest cap position. I agree with you. I don't want to see Johnson, or I don't want to see Brady take that job. And, especially like Brady, I think he would kind of instill some toughness in that team, which was probably the last thing I want to see. If you're in the Cowboys division, but the Dion thing is intriguing because I think there's more smoke to that. I don't know if he ultimately ends up going. I think it's a little bit more than, oh, it was nice to talk on the phone to Jerry Jones. I'm not buying that crap because Dion can pick up the phone anytime he wants to call Jerry Jones, and Jerry Jones is going to take his phone call. So I'm not buying into that whole thing. I think there's a lot more involved in there, especially what's going to happen with his son.
I actually would love for Deion Sanders to be the next head coach of Dallas Cowboys.
I'm in.
That would never work. Ever.
I'm in. I'm just saying I don't know if it's going to happen. I'm not saying I wouldn't want it to happen. But
I could see it now. Got the New York Giants for the 3rd overall pick. I could see it right now, bro. I could see everything written on the wall. I would love that. Get Shador, Prime. I would
do it that way. Cottrell had another one. Not a trade that I wouldn't do, but it would make sense to get their hands on him. But I think somebody at some point soon. It's obviously not going to be an easy discussion within that family, but you're starting to see he's just missing the boat on things a little bit. And again, you're now battling against the Giants, who. All right. They just shoot themselves in the foot every year, but you're going against an Eagles franchise, mainly which is built to win still for the next foreseeable future, and a Washington team that looks like they just struck gold with a franchise quarterback. Like neither one of those franchises are going anywhere, and Dallas is definitely falling back. I think some of that decision making is probably going to have to get taken away from Jerry Jones sooner than later. Again, won't be an easy discussion to be had within that family, but it's starting to take its effect. And with what stuff you mentioned already, and just the way they've handled things in the last couple of years. And again, like if you knew you weren't keeping Mike McCarthy, and again, all reports indicated that they were never close to even getting almost to the table to even negotiate an extension, and you just don't let them talk to Chicago. Like for what reason? Like it's the whole thing. There's just a lot of little things like that, but it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be interesting who ends up with that job, because obviously just because of who they are, everybody will tell you that's the most attractive job, and I don't think it is.
Kachal, your thoughts?
I mean, two things. One, I think Jerry Jones is ultimately going to go with the guy who I think he has to go with a guy that everybody's going to like. So I don't think they're going to be in play for the Joe Brady's or the Ben Johnson, because for one, if I'm a guy like Ben Johnson, I mean, you see how much freedom he has there in Detroit. I mean, they're calling plays for their left tackle, to catch the ball, things like that. If that goes south in Dallas, then everybody's going to be on Jerry's head, and Jerry in turn is going to be on your head with it. So I don't know how enticing that would be for me if I'm a first-time head coach going to Dallas. And I get it. It's the biggest possible, spotlight for all the job openings right now. But I don't think that that's very enticing to me. Ultimately, I think he's going to try to go with a guy who is either that experienced coach. Like for me, first two names that came up were guys who've already been head coaches. Pete Carroll was one that I feel like would make sense, because he thinks Pete could come in and be an instant win now kind of guy. But then also them interviewing Robert Saleh, like I was like, you know what, this is something that would make sense as well, because he's a defensive minded coach. Obviously the defense is, what they usually hang their hat on, at least, while Dan Quinn was still there. And offensively, they don't have like that young QB that needs to be mentored per se. You may think Dak, is still learning right now, but ultimately he's not a guy that needs to be mentored by, a QB guru or offensive mind there. So I think they go with a defensive minded kind of guy and somebody that's been a head coach already. And then just to piggyback off that with Mike McCarthy specifically, I don't understand if he gets another coaching job. Like I will be so perplexed with everything, because if you've seen how like things ended with the Cowboys, I get it. Dak got hurt, and all that happened with Dallas, a lot of injuries and people sitting out, and CD was hurt at the end of the year. I get all that, but at the end of the day, he was on a 12-win Cowboys team last year, and in the history since we've gone to this well, I shouldn't say idiotic, but since we've expanded the NFL playoffs, there's been 1 7 seed to beat a 2 seed. And that is the Green Bay Packers over the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry World. Like, if I'm growing what expectations can I have? Mike McCarthy couldn't win a Super Bowl when Jerry was opening his checkbook. So why would I go out and hire this guy where he has to develop talent, and we're not going to just buy all this talent? And he couldn't even win with those guys. So I'd be really curious to see how many teams seriously consider hiring Mike McCarthy. I get the pedigree. He's won a Super Bowl before, but the Bears would literally be that's a very Bears move.
100%. Guys, I want to get into the recap of some of the playoff games. I'm going to do you guys a favor. I'm just going to say the game. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to let you guys talk about it, because I don't want to get involved. I just want to leave it alone. I don't want to talk about the game. I want you two to talk about it. Houston Texans, Los Angeles Chargers. How'd the game go, guys? I'm just going to sit back. You guys talk about it. I'll be right here.
Houston won. Chargers lost. What's
Great
next
breakdown.
game?
Great breakdown. That's it. That's all we got.
That's all I got. I mean, dominant win for the Texans.
How'd you see the game playing out? What happened? What were the keys to victory?
The Chargers started well. And it just kind of went to shit after that. No, listen. I mean, I'll talk about it. I don't care. It's playoff football. Can't turn the football over. Justin Herbert did that a lot on Saturday. Threw two really bad ones, two that probably weren't his fault, but you can't have 4 interceptions in a playoff game. It's unforgivable. He didn't play well. Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as that. I think they, once Houston really got their offense going and kind of really started gashing that defense, became really evident they weren't going to be able to run the ball. And then it just – they got put in positions where they are not going to succeed with the way that offense is structured right now. And that's not an excuse. That's how they play football all year if you watch them play. I think they have 4 wins where they won like 17-13. That's just how they played this year. And you can't give CJ Stroud in that offense 4 extra possessions in a playoff game, in a home playoff game. Like I said, didn't play well, cost the team the game. I don't really know what else there really is to argue about.
There's nothing to argue about. My whole point is this, right? And I'm trying to not get too involved in this, but me and Cottrell had a fun, spirited debate through our group chat this week. I don't know how, in what world. Now, by the way, I'll give you all the credit in the world because you quickly switched it. But anybody can have Justin Herbert as a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He's not. Is he a top 5 talent? Absolutely. Did he look better this year with a competent head coach? Absolutely. Can't have him as top 5 quarterback. He's not. He's not. He shouldn't be 6 either. Shouldn't be 7 either. I get it. He looks really good. And listen, you guys say whatever you want about Manuel Acho. Manuel Acho says a lot of things that are a little bit off the rails, but social media quarterbacks are a really good line for Justin Herbert because that's all he's proven to be in the playoffs. 2 playoff games, 2 absolutely abysmal performances, especially the second half of the game. That's all I have to say. Do I think he'll turn it around with Jim Harbaugh? Absolutely. I think next year they'll be in the conference championship game because I think Jim's that good and I think Justin's that good. I just don't think we can put him in that position right now. He's not there.
I mean, I think it's fair to say that he's not there. Like, he's not a top 5 quarterback. And I mean, I think he can definitely get there for sure. And he's, in my book, I think he's close, but a couple of things. I mean, I think that obviously the game showed he wants to be the hero all the time, and that's got to get coached out of him. And Jim will coach that out of him. You saw he really did it with JJ McCarthy. If you look at JJ, the year they played TCU and ultimately lost it, JJ, and to his credit, was trying to be the hero, and he made a lot of great throws in that game. But he had 2 bad interceptions in the game also. Following year, JJ did not make those same mistakes anymore. And ultimately, they went to go win a national championship. So, I mean, I think that Jim will definitely coach that out of him. And I also think that it's funny looking back now because, again, I don't want to – this isn't me making an excuse for Justin Herbert, but we really came in with no expectations for this Chargers team this year. Like, them making the playoffs, I think was a surprise for all of us. We thought Jim would be successful, but I don't think any of us expected them to make the playoffs this year. And especially looking at, them getting rid of Keenan Allen, getting rid of Mike Williams. And it was like, you're going to roll out there Trey Palmer, Quentin Johnston, and Ladd McConkey, and that's supposed to get it done. And to their credit, all season long, they had been. Justin Herbert, his numbers weren't gaudy by any means, but he only had 3 interceptions throughout the regular season. And he was doing exactly what he needed to do to win. I think this upcoming offseason, I'd imagine they go, whether it be the draft or free agency, they're going to bring in another weapon. They obviously hit on Ladd McConkey. Like, Ladd can be a star for that Chargers team, but they're going to hit on either another draft pick or, go through free agency, bring in more weapons and, make that roster better. But I mean, that doesn't excuse playing bad in the playoffs, but I still think future can be bright for him. And, even with you saying you think they're going to go to the conference championship game next year, I mean, I think that tells you everything you need to know about the team.
Bro, and I just want to be clear when I say this. I don't hate the kid. I don't. I think he's a very good quarterback. You see where I have him? I have him 9. 9's not a bad spot for him. But, I feel like that there's certain quarterbacks in the NFL that are just overhyped way too fast. I also feel like we give up on quarterbacks way too fast. But we'll get into that. We'll talk about that. We'll go a little bit further there. Moving on to the next game on the docket. Guys, I hate saying this, but I gotta ask the question. Is it one of those things with Andy Reid in Philly? Do we need to, for both the Steelers and for Mike Tomlin, do we need to it might be better for both of them to just different routes, right? You see what happened with the Philadelphia Eagles. They moved on from Andy Reid. They ended up getting Doug Peterson in. They won a Super Bowl. Andy Reid went on to win 3 Super Bowls in Kansas City. Both sides were happy with the severance. Do I think Mike Tomlin has created wine with water? They haven't gotten a franchise quarterback. That's not on Mike. I don't think it's on him at all. But, I mean, they don't win in playoff games. They haven't won a playoff game in 8 years. That's not the Steelers' MO. That's not who they are, right? Is it time to just sever ties? Is it time for the Steelers to walk away or for Mike Tomlin to walk away? By the way, Mike Tomlin becomes unemployed, #1 coaching candidate this offseason. No doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
Every team will be lining up to grab Mike Tomlin.
There might be teams that actually fire their coach to hire.
I was literally what I was going to say. He takes any job he wants, and if outside of a handful, I think there's a chance that if people were kind of like on the ledge about going another year with somebody else, and they think they get Tomlin, they'll probably fire people. You mentioned the big thing, and we talk about this all the time, but it's becoming, the NFL is such a league that is dominated by good quarterback play. It's really hard to judge. I mean, he's got this great defense. He's got an inconsistent offensive line. He's got 2 running backs that are good. He's got George Pickens, who is a baby, and that's keeping it.
That's a very nice way. That's a very nice way.
It's a very nice way to put it. All the talent in the world, but he's got a lot of growing up to do, and I don't think he. I would say this: all of us knowing what we know about Mike Tomlin, he's not a Mike Tomlin type of guy.
Well, I mean, that is a prototypical Steelers receiver.
That's right.
I mean, he fits the bill to the T.
It didn't used to be that way, though.
So, but here's the thing, though, right?
But just let me finish.
Yes, sir.
I really don't think you can judge it or want to make the break until. I don't care who you bring in there. If you don't figure out the quarterback situation, whoever goes in there is going to struggle.
Is that on him, though, Bill? Is that on Mike? Do they not might have the guy? They went 4-2 with Justin Fields. They didn't go back to him. They lost 5 straight games down the stretch.
They played 5 really good teams down the stretch. Really good, and it's you hate to say it, but at the beginning of the year, even when Russ came over and he had that 3-game spurt where he was looking really good, they weren't playing good teams.
You're right.
AFC stacked. I mean, that division stacked. Even with Cleveland stinking this year, you have Baltimore, who looks like they could win the Super Bowl. Cincinnati finally got their shit together, but just too late. They didn't even make the playoffs. I mean, it's the AFC. Patrick Mahomes isn't going anywhere, and Josh Allen's not going anywhere. So, that's where the bad year. It's a bad year with Trevor Lawrence. Bo Nix looks like he's going to be legit, and like we all agree, at some point the Chargers are going to make a run with Justin Herbert. So, I mean,
don't skip Lamar. Don't skip Lamar.
Or Stroud.
I didn't say. I meant CJ. I already said Baltimore, but that's what I mean. It's you want to come out of that conference to represent the AFC and go to the Super Bowl. You need to have a good quarterback, and he is not the answer. Sorry, at all,
guys.
And he's not a Mike Tomlin guy. Here's my problem with the Steelers. It's a very attractive job if you, like you said, if you decide to be like, hey, you know what, it's time for a change of scenery for both of us. But you mentioned the Doug Peterson thing. You forget the shit years in between with Chip Kelly. Like you run the. I know you don't, but I'm saying you didn't mention them. I don't know if the Steelers are willing to possibly go through that because it could happen. Obviously, if they fire Tomlin, he automatically, like you guys both said, becomes the #1 guy. Takes any job he wants. But I would also say the next best guy. I would say there's a better team you'd want to work for than the Steelers. So they automatically probably become, as long as you can get a quarterback, marry the coach of the quarterback, like Gene always says, if you can accomplish that, they're the most attractive job out there. So, but that's what it factors around. You got to get a QB. Is Justin a long-term answer? Maybe. I don't know what that kid does in practice that there's not anybody that was just like, he's the guy, we can build around him. Because then when he gets in games, you just see the flashes. And you're like, oh, there it is. There he goes. Like, it's there. Like, I don't know what it's going to take to get that out of him consistently. Because if you do, then you have a bona fide starting quarterback in the NFL. I don't know if he comes back. I don't know if Russell comes back. I don't know what they're doing. That's very un-Pittsburgh like, and I would say that.
Look, biggest thing for me is that I think that Mike Tomlin is starting to, and I 100% agree with you guys. The quarterback situation does matter, and all of that. Like it's a big factor. Mike Tomlin is quiet as it's kept. He's slowly turned into Doc Rivers, where you're holding on to this 2008 championship, and you can always get to the playoffs, and you look good during the regular season, but when it's time to go up against some of these better teams, you come up short. But I'm not saying that the Steelers this year should have beat the Ravens. I'm not saying in years past, like Steelers teams, should have beaten who they were going up against, but at some point, you have to stop clinging on to a 2008 championship. And so it's not to say Mike Tomlin's not a good coach either. Like, I think he's a top 5 coach.
Omar Khan the issue, or is it Mike Tomlin? For years we've been saying quarterback, offensive line, offensive line. And Bill just said a second ago, he's not a Mike Tomlin guy. I'm tired of hearing that. And not against Bill, but watch. Le'Veon Bell, not a Mike Tomlin guy, issues. Antonio Brown, not a Mike Tomlin guy, issues. Deontay Johnson, he's a psychopath. Like, there's been a million of them that go. George Pickens, psychopath. They've had their issues with, like, these ridiculous players that have come into Pittsburgh.
For sure.
I don't know where this comes from, right?
But
are they not Mike Tomlin guys, or they just
the thing too, though, is that Mike Tomlin. I also think that Mike Tomlin, like, yes, their GM ultimately made the final say. But that's very much a collaborative thing there. So when they went out and drafted Kenny Pickett, like, I'm not saying Tomlin was the one in there like, oh, he's the guy. But I'm sure they had a collective thought like, hey, can Kenny come in and run? Like, is this a guy that you want to lead your team? Because you could see that even with like Russ, Tomlin was a big advocate for Russ. Like, he was like, I think he's going to be a great leader of men. Like, this is the kind of guy I want to bring in my locker room. And even with Justin, he knew he wanted Justin in. So I do think Tomlin does want his guys, but I mean, at some point it's gotta be, you got to move on from him. And even still, even if you go the route of getting a quarterback, do you want Mike Tomlin to develop a guy for 2 to 3 years where, you get to the playoffs and ultimately, you don't get it done and then you switch over? Like, I just don't know if Mike Tomlin is in a position now where, even though he's not an offensive guy, he's not in a position to mentor a young quarterback and even go through that rebuild stage, even if that's just because the rebuild for the Steelers is going to the playoffs and losing in the first round every year. Like, they've been rebuilding for 5 years since Ben Roethlisberger retired, essentially.
I get it. And on one hand, I don't disagree with anything you said. But, like, on the other hand, though, like, it's not living up to, like, the Steelers standards per se, with their history. You know how many franchises would love to make the playoffs every year?
You're right.
Like, even going back to McCarthy, like, as much as, and I don't think McCarthy's a great coach, but he went 12-5 3 straight years. You know how many franchises would kill for that, to go to the playoffs 3 years ago, go 12-5? It's not easy to do.
But what does that say? The standard is the standard.
Agreed. And I
don't agree with your Doc Rivers. I don't
either.
And I'll tell you why.
NBA, NFL is so much different.
No, but the difference is this, right? When you look at a Doc Rivers coach team over the last 10 years, 15 years, it'd be really tough for you to say that they have a top 10, top 5 roster all basketball. and they just don't get it done. The Steelers don't have a top 5 roster. We could all put their roster up versus every other roster in the league. And if you asked look, I'll tell you right now, if you look at the Steelers over-unders the last, I don't know, 10, 8, 9 years, I'll bet you they hit the over 7 out of 8 years because they're not expected to be as good as they are. And I think Mike Tomlin gets every ounce of blood from that stone. But to your point, and this is the one thing I'll agree with you with, at what point do you need more? And the Steelers, the standard is the standard. The standard isn't losing the first round of playoffs every year. That's not what it is. And that's what they've been doing. So I agree with that point. I can't call him Doc Rivers. So we're going to get back to the NFL. It's 8 o'clock. It's trivia time. Guys, I made it quick this week because I know we had a large show. I think you guys should be able to wrap this up. I will not tell you who's 11, 12, because we're going to use that as tiebreakers. I think this is done rather quick. I think it's an easy trivia question. Turn your comments off. Get situated. I need you looking at me. Mind mode. Right here. Right here. We are rocking and rolling. The trivia question will be put up on the ticker. Mr. Thank you very much, Black Elmore. And the trivia question is, this is updated as of December 2nd of 2024. If anything's changed since then, I don't know what to tell you. But who are the 10 highest paid quarterbacks for the 2024 NFL season? The 10 highest paid quarterbacks, 2024 NFL season. Shally, starts off.
I'll go Patrick Mahomes.
That is strike one.
Nice.
I will go with Deshaun Watson.
That is strike one.
Oh, shit. Really?
Dak Prescott.
That is number one.
Jordan Love.
That is number 4. We're going to fly through this.
Joey B's got to be up there somewhere.
Joe Burrow is number 3.
And Trevor Lawrence has to be up there.
It's number 2.
Who else just signed an extension? Herbert's probably up there.
Is that your guess?
Yep.
Justin Herbert's number 7.
Number 7. He signed like a $200-something million. Oh, that worries me. Jalen Hurts signed an extension. Go Jalen
Hurts is number 9.
Lamar Jackson.
Number 8. Flying.
Out of curiosity, what do you have the numbers?
I do.
What's the number that we're looking at here at number 8, 9?
It's compensation. Number 8 was $52 million this year.
Oh, okay. So it's just yearly. Okay.
Yeah, just this year.
I got you. Yep. Kirk Cousins has to be up there.
That is a strike.
Okay.
I'm not telling you guys the answer. Just to be clear, you guys are doing a pretty good job in the teens. Not like trying to, obviously, but.
What's the score?
Right now, you're up 1, 4-3.
I'll go with Tua.
Tua is number 5.
Oh, that's a great guess.
We got 2 left, number 5 and number 10.
Go with.
I only have one more guess that I'm confident in.
I have 2, but I'm just curious on which side I should go here, which way you would think. Screw it. I'll go Josh Allen.
Incorrect.
Should have went with my freaking other one.
I'm going to go with Gene's original boy. I'm going to go with Kyler Murray.
Number 10. That is the win.
God damn it. Because Aaron Rodgers has to be the other one.
He's not.
What? Aaron Rodgers signed like a 2-year, $110 million deal.
I'll read them to you if you like. Number 15 is Matthew Stafford. Number 14, Josh Allen, $43 million. Number 12, Kirk Cousins, tied with Patrick Mahomes. Number 11 is Deshaun Watson. Number 10 is Kyler Murray. Number 9, Jalen Hurts. Number 8, Lamar Jackson. Number 7, Justin Herbert. Number 6, tied for number 6, was Tua and Jared Goff, the one you guys you missed. Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, and Joe Burrow all tied for number 2. Dak Prescott is number 1.
Jesus.
I don't know if Aaron's is deferred or he got like bonus money. I don't know what it is, but that's what they're paid this year. This is a reference of Front Office Sports, top 10, and it was updated on December 2nd, 2024 at 4:13 p.m.
Yeah, they say he's only making $37.5 million for the year. So
we flew through that. That was exactly what I wanted because we got a lot to go on. But if Shally takes down the win, we edit that. Give him. I gotta move his place here. I really wanted to keep myself in that first spot, but I can't do that anymore. We'll update the ticker. The ticker is now updated with trivia. And back to NFL action. That was like 6 minutes. That's got to be our fastest trivia. That was a fun one. Quick one. Fun.
it was quick, yeah.
But don't want to go too far into the Steelers situation until we find out what happens. But that's what we were talking about with Steelers. We'll talk about the Ravens when we break down the next round of the games. Let's finish our previews. And what we're essentially doing, our recaps, what we're essentially doing is recapping. Look, I was wrong. I'll admit I was wrong. I thought that the Denver Broncos would give the Buffalo Bills more of a fight. They did. First half, love the fake punt. Big touchdown, first drive, 7-0 Broncos.
Say first drive went right down the field.
I got to give the Buffalo Bills credit. Even after the field goal, their defense stiffened up, got better as the game went on, dominated the rest of the game. Buffalo Bills run away with this one. It was not a game. I will say this. It was a game until 4th and 1. And Josh Allen will get all the credit in the world for this, but he doesn't deserve it. Just for this part. And nothing against Josh. Love Josh. Nothing against the guy. But it's 13-7. It's 4th and 1. Josh Allen throws a bomb to the back of the end zone. And Ty Johnson, who's a running back, made an incredible catch in the back of the end zone on 4th down. If that ball hits the ground, if his foot touches the white line, I'm not saying the Broncos win the football game. I'm not. But 13-7, the Broncos take over the ball at the 35-yard line. One score game, I think the game runs differently. I don't think it becomes a blowout. That play was the end-all, be-all for the Broncos. I think the Broncos found their quarterback in Bo Nix. Maybe I'm Bo Nix. I used to be a Bo Nix hater. Auburn, didn't think he was that great. Didn't give him his credit at Oregon. But I always said, going into this draft, the one place he could land that I think would be the perfect landing spot would be with the Broncos. I said he's Drew Brees light. L-I-T-E. Drew Brees light. And he's proving me correct in that realm. Bo Nix played great this year. Came up small in the second half of the game versus Buffalo. Josh Allen didn't. Bills win 31-7. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
I mean, you cover most of it. I mean, again, you take the opening drive, go right down the field, and it was the game that was universally picked across the board by pretty much everybody that if the away team was going to cover, it was going to be Denver Buffalo. I think they had a lot of confidence in that Denver defense. And to your point, I think Buffalo played great. They, from pretty much the second quarter on, they dominate the game. And I think it's, at home, you got to win playoff games. And they played well enough to win. Did a lot of good things offensively. They got James Cook going. He had a pretty big game. Like you said, Ty Johnson had a great catch there in the back of the end zone. It wasn't some extraordinary day for Josh at all. Made plays when he had to, had a couple big plays, ran the ball, played good defense, get the W and move on. I think Denver has a lot to look forward to, though. I think to your point, I think getting Bo Nix and realizing now that he is a guy you can build around. You now have your quarterback situation in Denver settled. probably got to get, I don't know what they're going to do with the running back situation. They got to figure that out. They got to get another weapon outside to go with Cortland Sutton. But I think they're a team that is a lot closer now than I think we all thought they were going to be at the beginning of the season. Denver's going to be a perennial playoff team probably every year now. So again, to the point we're just talking about Pittsburgh, just another team to throw in the mix. The AFC is loaded. It's loaded with already really good teams and teams that are still getting better and coming up. So I think if you're Denver, I don't think you ever want your season to end that way. But I think if you're Denver, you have to be happy with your season. I think you have to be happy with where Bo Nix is, Sean Payton, where they have, where he has that team, and I think you have to be really looking forward in the next 2 or 3 years, watching that team come together.
So, just want to ask this question, and obviously we'll get into it when we break down the main event of the evening for next Sunday. But can we give James Cook his roses? The guy never gets talked about as a top 10 running back in football, especially the top 5. He looks excellent. He looks like they're talking about this game like Lamar and Derrick Henry versus Josh Allen. James Cook is not no scrub. That guy is a very good running back. He ran the ball efficiently. And you said Josh didn't have a great game. You must think the world of Josh Allen, because 20 of 26 for over 300 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns with a 135 quarterback rating is not a great game for Josh Allen. And I agree with you. It wasn't a great game. Bill, I agree with you. It didn't stand out as an incredible game. But that's really good to have as your.
Yeah.
It was all right.
But again, Josh. I mean, love him or hate him or whatever you argue in between. Josh Allen is in that category where that's a really good game for him. It's not spectacular. It's not some heroic 4 touchdown
loss
or something whatever. But again, we're seeing. I will say this: we've seen what he's been capable of in other situations. So yeah, it's a really good, clean football game for Josh Allen. We saw the beginning of this last year, though, when they started to play well at the end of the year last year. What did they do? They stayed committed to the run. They stayed committed to James Cook. He came in this year in camp as the bona fide number 1 back. There was no committee. There was no controversy. There was no anything. And to Gene's point, he's absolutely solidified himself. He's absolutely a top 10 back. And they recognize that now, and they're balanced. It's just funny. We talked about it, but you take Stephon Diggs out of the situation. They haven't had Dalton Kincaid most of the year, but they're balanced, and he's not playing hero ball. And here's Buffalo. They look better this year than they have every other year. So it's not, I hate to say it's not a "we told you so" type thing, but we are.
I'll say this though, Bill. Excuse me. I'll say this. I think that.
Bless you.
Thank you. I'll say
God bless you.
I think that this game really lets you know what Buffalo Bills team you have. I can't go writing and saying that, oh, we told you so. I can't do that yet. They have to win this football game coming up for me to do that. They have to get to an AFC championship game for me to say they were better without Diggs. Yeah, granted, they look better. Joe Brady's done a great job. Josh Allen's done a very good job. The balanced attack looks great. I need to see it this week. Control, am I wrong?
No, I mean, I agree. I was actually going to say the same thing. I mean, I think with Diggs, they probably would have beat this Denver team last year as well.
Agreed.
I think to your point, though, the offense has looked it's flowed a lot better throughout the season. Just eye test alone, you can see that no one's clamoring for the ball. And I'll say this as well. I mean, they went out and traded a 3rd-round pick for Amari Cooper, and that he's been a ghost for him. It's been the Keon Coleman, Shakir, and Curtis Samuel show. Amari Cooper has been a shell of his former self there. So I mean, I think that's a credit to Josh Allen for sure, and a lot of it also goes to James Cook being reliable in the run game, where, to your guys' point about, Josh's numbers, 20 for 26, 300 plus all-purpose yards, rather pedestrian day for him. It was because he didn't have to go and be Superman. He didn't go make that. I mean, outside of the touchdown on 4th and 1 there, he didn't have to go out and, throw for a 1.5 million yards or, go run and have 20+ yard runs and, put his health on the line. I mean, early in the first half, when they were in situations they needed like 4 or 5 yards, Josh was running. He was taking off with his feet. He's like, all right, I'm not even gonna think about throwing here. I'm gonna go make sure I take care of the yardage and play very much within the game plan. So I mean, I think for me, that's really more so what stood out. It was that Josh was like, hey, I don't even have to be this MVP version of myself from the regular season because I'm just going to take what they hand to me. And it was like they followed their game plan to the T. So, you talk about it not being like a signature performance for him. I mean, I think that's, of course, we're going to look at the 4 touchdown game. And this isn't even me trolling or anything. Of course, we're going to look at that as like such a spectacular game from Josh. But I look at this as like, this is how you play mistake-free football. And this is like you can be consistent doing this. You can go 20 for 26 every playoff game, not turn the ball over and put your team in the best position every time you touch the field. Like I think this was a very impressive game for Josh Allen.
If you're looking forward to a game this week, it's got to be Bills-Ravens. That's the game to look forward to the most this Sunday. Going to quickly go through the last 3 games because we're kind of running up against it. We still have UFC. We still have previews. But I don't want to skip over any of the football games. I do, but we'll go a little bit quicker through these last 3. Eagles, Packers. Guys, I don't mean to be this guy. Don't want to be this guy. But the Eagles manhandled the Packers. And I don't care how the passing game looked. I don't care. I will say this. Kellen Moore did a very poor job of scheming pass plays open. I don't put a lot of that on Jalen at all. I watched the all 22 of this game later on that night. I watched the game, then I watched the next game, and then 2 o'clock in the morning, I was up in my cold. I watched the all 22 of the Eagles game again. The scheme on passing plays was not good for Philadelphia. It didn't matter. Philadelphia's defense flew around the football. I will say this. I hate being this guy. The Rams have no chance of beating the Eagles this week. None. No chance. You guys I don't want to say you guys, but I'm saying anybody out there that's picking the Rams just doesn't understand the line of scrimmage. We are going to bully them at the line of scrimmage. The offensive and defensive line the Eagles are playing right now will not be stopped by the Rams. Now, you got a different test. If you get the Lions, you got a different test. Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs, Baltimore Ravens. I get it. This Rams team on a short week going across country, no chance. None. Philadelphia Eagles pass game is going to look better this week. I guarantee it. I have no doubt about it. The Eagles will run over the Rams this week, just like they did the Packers. Packers played very, very, very good defense. Jalen Hurts did what he needed to do. Mistake-free football. Didn't turn the football over. Hand the ball to Saquon Barkley. Control tempo. Control the clock. Your thoughts?
I mean, no, Bill, I'll let you go. It's your team.
Just kind of roll. I mean, I think the Eagles definitely win the game. I'm not that super confident. I think Matt Stafford is capable of coming in and beating anybody. Offensively, they're healthy, which is what worries me a little bit. Outside of Higbee, doesn't sound like he's going to play. But Kyron Williams is another guy that had a very good running back, had a very good year. They like to run the ball. I don't think they're able to run the ball with, I would say, sustained success against that defensive line, which means they're going to have to throw. They have Cooper and Puka, but you factor in the weather that is most likely going to be, happening during the game. I'm pretty confident in the Eagles winning on Sunday. I think Saquon has a huge game. I really do. I think they're going to run often, like Gene said. I think that offensive line is going to eat against that D line against the Rams. And I think Jalen's game will look pretty similar to last week's. I think he'll throw the ball when he has to, get completions when he has to, extend a couple plays. I think the Eagles win by like 10, somewhere around there. And then we get ready for what's going to come out of the other game, which is, I think, going to be I think we all know who that's going to be. So
I think the one thing though that I would say, I do think the Eagles have a really good chance to win the game. Like I think the Eagles are, you talk about a 10-point win. I mean, I'm probably in the same ballpark as well, but I think this game alone showed you that the injury bug can happen and it can bite you in the ass at any point. Slay going down on a freak play there. Obviously, Nakobe Dean's going to be out for the rest of the playoffs here as well. I just think when those kinds of things happen, and we've seen how quickly the Packers were, close to full strength at receiver, minus Christian Watson, and then they're down only 3 healthy receivers on the entire roster. So I think it's good to have the confidence and things like that, but I think Nakobe Dean's presence will be missed in the middle of that defense, especially knowing how the Rams like to pass the ball and get to the middle of the field, and ultimately just how McVay's offense is with all the motion and just they like to confuse defenders' eyeballs, get them in the wrong place, and beat them essentially by alignment. So I think that's going to be a big thing, figuring out who's going to ultimately replace Nakobe there. I know you guys got a couple backups that are going to be playing in there. Trotter Jr. being one of them. Forgot the other kid's name that got a ton of the snaps this past week against the Packers.
Warren Burks. He got beat like he stole something when Nakobe Dean went out of the game. Warren Burks, remember the name.
So I'm sure Sean McVay is going to see that on film and just try to figure out ways to attack that matchup there. And then with Slay, I know he came back, but him not being 100%, and I think that could potentially cause problems there. But I agree with Eugene in the sense of the offensive line and defensive line. Like, the battle of the game is definitely going to be in the trenches. The one thing the Rams have going for them, though, is that they already got beat like they stole something the last time they went up against the Eagles. I don't think McVay is going to come in with the exact same game plan. So I don't even necessarily think it's going to be a matchup of, the Rams playing tough or anything like that. I think McVay is going to just do a better job of knowing that, hey, our guys don't have it up front. We can't go mono with the Eagles. They're too damn good. So I think that'll be the fun part of the chess match, because
I just don't know how you scheme against that, right? Like when they played the last time, Stafford dropped back 36 times to throw the ball. He got sacked 5 times. So he dropped back 41 times, threw the ball 36 times. He got sacked 5 times. The Philadelphia Eagles interior defensive line was if you rewatch that game, you can even hear the announcers. She's like, I feel terrible for Matt Stafford. There's nothing they can do. It's a complete mismatch up front
for sure.
For Philadelphia's defensive line versus the Rams offensive line. I don't know what you can scheme differently.
So my thing is, I think that you're going to see a lot of motion, trying to get the backup linebacker, try to get them flowing, moving in the wrong direction, things like that.
Yeah.
And then just a lot of misdirection where you have plays where you're blocking everybody to the right and you're throwing a backside screen, or you're having bunch formations, but you're throwing it to the weak side where there's only one guy where there's supposed to be help funneled in the middle there. So, I mean, I think just knowing McVay and knowing, how his mind works, like through offensive schemes and things like that, I think that'll be the fun part to see. And then, it'll really be fun to see if, once things get tight. I clearly think that the Eagles have the advantage coordinator wise, but, it'll be curious to see during certain situations, Sirianni, if he's going to be aggressive, and because that's ultimately how I think the Rams can stay in the game. It's a 4th and 3 situation, and Sirianni's aggressive, has no business going for it, things like that. And then the Rams get it with short field, and, they don't have to do much to go kick a field goal or stuff like that. So I think the Eagles, with all that said, we're not even at previews yet. I think the Eagles are still in a great spot, but I'm not as confident as you in the sense of I can see a path. It's a small one. It may be narrow, but I can see a path for the Rams to at least have success and, keep that game tight.
I get that. And I understand with Matt Stafford, a lot of things can happen, especially with an offensive line like McVay, offensive mind like McVay. But this is the only point I want to finish with, right? I don't know any football team. I don't care who the quarterback is. We talked about this with Pat Mahomes in the Super Bowl versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. When your lines are absolutely dominant on both sides of the ball, like they were versus the Rams, the offensive line absolutely pushed around the Rams. That was Saquon's 300-yard game, 253 on the ground, 47 receiving. I don't see – you really have to screw this one up coaching-wise for Philadelphia to lose this football game, because the advantage you have in the trenches is so much. It's so much. And you put the Rams in a situation where they have to load the box. They don't have the corners that can stick Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown one-on-one. They just don't. They don't have it. I know we're not preview. We'll get there. We'll get there. We really don't need to preview that game. We just basically talked about it. But Sunday Night Football. Guys, I don't want to be this guy. I don't. But I'm going to be this guy. because it's accurate. And I could be wrong. You guys could say, like, no, you're wrong, Gene. That's fine. I've been wrong before. I've never seen a team. Never. You remember? That's a lie. The Cardiac Cats, the Bears, the Monsters of the Midway Bears that just found different ways to win football games. I've never seen a team just run into the dumbest luck ever like the Washington Commanders have. I don't mean to be that guy. They're the luckiest team in football. They are going to get this shit kicked out of them this week at Detroit. I bet your fucking mortgage on it. There's no way they lose that football game to the Detroit Lions. They are the luckiest team in football. That Detroit offense is going to have a field day versus Washington this week. This is the blowout of the week, the blowout of the year. This game's not close. This is. I'll tell you exactly what this game is. I'll tell you exactly what this football game is. Do you remember watching The Replacements? Not The Replacements. Jesus Christ. The movie with Jamie Foxx. Any Given Sunday. You remember Any Given Sunday? How Cap Rooney goes down and Willie Beeman comes in, they win the game, and then they like quickly go. And the next week they lost 38-4 to like the next team, and they didn't really talk about that. This is that game. Willie Beeman came in, he's steaming Willie Beeman, Jaden Daniels, finding ways to win football games. Fine. This is the next week where they lose by 35 points because this game's not going to be fun. Detroit is going to kick the shit out of the Commanders this football game. Don't tell me anything differently. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me Washington's a good football team. I don't know where, but tell me why.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say they're not a good football team. You could say that they're a good football team and, you know, they're overly matched against, you know, debatably the best team in football. I mean, both those things can be true.
Yeah.
I think they're going to go to Detroit. I think they're getting handled pretty well. You know, Detroit coming off a week's rest, a little bit more healthy. They're getting David Montgomery back, it looks like, as well. They have the two-headed monster back in the backfield. Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't disagree with you in, you know, the Hail Mary game and all that. They've had a Hail Mary game. I think they won a game with a field goal hitting an upright. I think there was something else crazy. I mean, yeah, there's been a bunch.
Sometimes
but that being
lucky. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. I mean, there's a lucky team that's got a first-round bye that are the two-time defending back-to-back champions. So you might want luck on your side in these
right.
games.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I think they're up against it in Detroit. I think Detroit going to be fresh, 2 weeks to game plan and just be ready to go. And you know, home playoff game. I think Washington's defense is gonna struggle against that offense from Detroit. I think Washington's offense has areas where they can be successful against that defense. If I'm being honest, I don't think they're gonna be able to do it with any sort of pace to keep up in that game, though. So I really think Jared Goff is going to pick that defense apart, and they're going to run the ball as well. So I like Detroit big as well.
I think the one thing that the Commanders could potentially have going for them is that Detroit's defense has stunk for a month. And, you know, we could talk about the injuries and all that, and I definitely think they've played a part in it. But if Washington's offense, if your boy Cliff shows up and does his job and schemes stuff open, they can have success there. Because, I mean, I think Terry McLaurin is going to have the advantage against anybody who lines up over him. So, I mean, I think Washington can put up points in this game. The problem is that they won't be able to put up nearly as many points as Detroit can put up against Washington's defense. So I like Detroit. I like them big there. But Washington, I think, can have some success on offense. And, you know, that Detroit defense, they're gonna, if they want to go win a Super Bowl, like how, I mean, they're the 1 seed and they had the bye, so a lot of people are thinking they can do it. The defense has to figure it out, because if they play like they played the last 5 weeks of the season, then yeah, they're going to be up against it. So I think this is a perfect kind of game to figure that out, though.
The last game, Monday Night Football, guys, we talked about the Rams already, and I don't want to be. Sam Darnold, will get into his conversation what the Vikings going to do this offseason. Sam Darnold lost himself a lot of money. And listen, I love Dan Orlovsky. I'm a Dan Orlovsky guy. Him going on First Take the next day and being like, this isn't on Sam Darnold. Dude, stop. Right? I could have projected this football game. I texted you guys right in the group chat the moment the game started. I said, if the Rams don't turn this football over, they're going to win this game easily. It will not be close. You have the LA Fires, the whole city LA behind them. Sam Darnold seeing ghost again. I don't know, bro. This is just Sam Darnold cost himself a lot of money. I'll start there. But this was an easy game to project. If there was one quarterback that could break down that Brian Flores defense, the smoke and mirrors that Brian Flores was putting out in the NFC playoff picture, it's Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford did that. Had an excellent game. And Sam Darnold came up small. Say what you want about Sam. Don't dislike Sam. Gave him comeback player of the year. He came out small the last 2 weeks. That's all there is to it. Yeah, what did the Vikings do with Sam Darnold? And what were your thoughts on the game?
For me, my thoughts on the game were pretty simple. I mean, it was an easy game to pick. Like you said, Gene, we all three of us picked the Rams last week, when we previewed the game, and a lot of it was, one, not trusting Sam, but also realizing that these two teams saw each other in regular season and the Rams gave them problems then. So, I mean, the Vikings only lost 2 teams all season, and it just so happens that it was the Rams and the Lions, and because they lost twice to the Lions, they don't get the 1 seed, and then they lose to the Rams twice, and now they're out in the first round. So I mean, I just think it was an awful matchup for them. I agree with you. Sam did cost himself a ton of money in this one because I do think he was going to have suitors where, looking at a lot of guaranteed money. Like I thought he was on the verge of potentially getting that bridge contract where, a really solid bridge contract to potentially even stand in Minnesota and signing a 3-4 year deal and them putting JJ on the pine. So I mean, I think he definitely called himself a ton of money there. For me, I mean, where does he go from here? I think he's got to hit the open market, because I think if you're Kevin O'Connell, you're like, all right, well, if we can go 14-3 with Sam Darnold, JJ McCarthy was killing it in camp before he went down with his injury, and the sky can be the limit for him. I can literally mold him into exactly what I want him to be. He already has the NFL mindset. He came from Harbaugh. Like at this point, he doesn't have any bad habits that I can't coach out of him. But yeah. Sam Darnold, he's been the starting quarterback before. He knows what it's like to play in, these kinds of games against these good defenses and not come up big. So I think that makes the choice a lot easier for Minnesota. And Sam's going to find himself as a bridge somewhere, probably making a ton of money for this one season, but it's going to be somewhere like a Pittsburgh, or, if the Giants miss out on their quarterback that they want, maybe somewhere like New York. Like it's going to be somewhere where he doesn't get the money that he probably would have commanded, because I honestly think he didn't deserve it. But I think he could have got close to a Kirk Cousins kind of contract. Not saying with all the guarantees, but 4 years, close to $180 million, more of a prove-it deal. I think he could have got pretty close to that.
I will say this before Shally goes. Shally, I the one part of that game that pissed me off, that bothered me, was, and Belichick said it, dude, you watch the Manning cast? I love the Manning cast. There's no way in the world you can call that an incomplete pass by Matt Stafford. That bothered me so much watching that live. They didn't even call that intentional ground. They called that an incomplete pass. Yeah. That literally was, and I texted the group chat right before that. I said, the Rams do not turn the football over. They will win this game. And the next play, Stafford fumbles the ball. It's returned for a touchdown. They called that an incomplete pass. That is a terrible, terrible call. Shally?
I agree with you. And I said right after it happened that can't be the end result of that play. No. If you want to say it's not a fumble and whatever, that's fine. It's got to at least be intentional grounding then. Like his head's down. Like he's not even looking. Like he's literally throwing that ball out of his hand just to avoid a sack. He's not trying to throw the ball towards anybody. That was a bad call. It was a bad call. In the end all be all, it didn't matter in the game, thank God. But that
you never know though. It's 10-10.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. If you give him the touchdown, and it's a whole different game. But I think Darnold picked a really bad time to play 2 pretty bad games back to back. I don't know what the issue was in the Rams game. I mean, he just looked like he was reluctant to throw the football. And then when he did throw the football, he was late. Just again, I don't know if it's a seeing ghost thing. I don't know if it's back into a bad habit, but I think they, Schefter reported today there was 4 teams that called about JJ that were interested in trading him, and Minnesota completely changed their stance and said that they're not even listening to anything for him now. Sam Darnold cost himself a lot of money. Even if it was going to be another 1-year deal with Minnesota on a franchise tag, or possibly a long-term thing, and them trading JJ and try to recoup picks. I feel bad for him because it was, again, like we said, he was comeback player of the year. He was kind of he was actually one of like the feel-good stories of the NFL this year. He really was. And to see it end that way, again, it's mentioned in the first segment of the show with Drew Aller. It is sports is a cutthroat business, man. There's very, very little room for heartfelt stories, and unless they end up perfectly the right way. And when they don't, and when they go wrong, as much as you feel for the guy and everything else, you're there to win football games. And it's a business, and it's the harshest reality that there is, man. And Sam Darnold's going to go through it. And it sucks, but I still think he did enough this year to like a Trell said. He's going to get paid. I mean, he's going to make money. I would firmly believe he starts somewhere next year. Maybe it's the Raiders. I don't know, but depending on what they do draft wise. But
does that ever work out though for teams? It's funny because it worked out this year for the Vikings. But like that bridge quarterback, that guy that you sign, like you look at it all the time. It happens all across the NFL where you don't have your franchise guy and you end up signing a guy. Like I guess Baker is the example of it working out, right, in Tampa Bay. But like there's not many examples of quarterbacks like Derek Carr. Like, we can't really draft our guy, so we'll just trade for or sign a mid-level guy. It never works out.
But to that point though, like even with Baker, like if Minnesota re-signs Darnold and he consistently gets them to the first round, or they win one playoff game, like I mean, I get it. Baker's a much better option for them. But not even just Baker though. Looking at other places as well, like Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is considered a bridge guy, and the Steelers go to the playoffs with him. Like at some point, these organizations are like, the Vikings this year, I would say they came in with low expectations to begin with. After the whole JJ injury, like Orlovsky said, they're under for wins for the year was at 6. So for them to have the year that they did, I mean, they overachieved there anyway. But to your point though, I mean, it doesn't work out. It doesn't. That bridge quarterback is never going to at least put you in a position to potentially win a Super Bowl. I'll say that.
Absolutely correct. I agree with you. And like a situation like Geno Smith's been okay. That's another bridge. I get it. I don't know. It doesn't work out often.
Your bridge quarterback maybe wins you one playoff game. Like that's been the best case scenario, and that's been Baker in Tampa Bay.
Yeah. All right, let's get into some like just quick previews because we give it a little previews on a few of them. But I do want to do it kind of in order. I don't know what Houston has done to like the media, to whoever. They are the 4:30 game on Saturday every time they play. Probably. It's like 9 straight playoff games. They've played 4:30 at Saturday. I don't know how it's possible.
Who do you put there instead? Like who's a worse draw?
No,
I was gonna say if you were playing these, what would your lineup be?
No, I get it 100% lineup is. My point being is what I think is funny is even wild card weekend, they've been the 4:30 Saturday, 8 straight playoff games. That's silly. It's actually crazy. If any team knows how to play 4:30 Saturday, it's the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
Anybody giving them any chance to beat the Kansas City Chiefs? Any chance?
I say no, but it's not even necessarily their fault. Like I think if they had either Tank or Diggs, then I'd be giving them a legit shot here. But I mean, if you're the Chiefs, one, you just saw them like 4 weeks ago, and that was the game that Tank went down when they were having all the success against you. But as soon as he went down, the offense stopped moving the ball. Like, I mean, I think it's so easy to game plan for. And so I think as long as Pat doesn't turn the ball over 2 or 3 times like Herbert did in the last game, which we really have never seen Patrick do in the playoffs, then I don't see how the Texans can win this football game.
I mean, I'll say like 15%, something like that. I mean, it's
I almost give less. I would be.
I do give less.
It would be the most shocking result out of the 4 playoff games.
Well, listen, I'll say this though. We talked about Washington being lucky. If there's a second team in the league this year that's been lucky, it's been Kansas City.
You're right.
With the freaking calls they've gotten in crunch time, and I think they won a game with somebody missing a field goal off of upright, stuff like that. Like, listen,
they blocked one. They met.
They blocked. Yeah, like this is not your dominant Kansas City team from 2-3 years ago, which is crazy to say because they're 15-1 or 16-1, whatever the hell they are. But or they're 2, sorry, 15-2. But that offense has just not looked good this year. I don't know how else to put it. Like I've said it numerous times on the show, they're winning games the reverse way this year. Their offense is scoring just enough, and that Steve Spagnuolo defense has just been absolutely locked down, insane on everybody they played this year. Like they've made it like Patrick Mahomes, like just go out and score 20, and we'll take care of the rest of it. This isn't, Patrick's going to go out and score 35 and we'll give up 28 in a barn burner. That's not how they're winning games this year. So, and I agree with your other sentiment. I think if they had Diggs and Nico, I think they maybe have a chance to put pressure. Steve's going to take Nico away, and then I just don't know where they go from there.
I think the Chiefs break their 30-point spell. They're one of 2 teams that haven't scored 30 points all year. I think they break that this week. I have them winning 31-17. I'll take the Chiefs in this one.
Yeah, and I think, Bill, to your point about the offense and, them getting carried by their defense, it was the same way last year. But they got into the playoffs, and the offense did enough to win football games still. So I like the Chiefs too. I won't go 30s. I'll go 27-14.
I just think that Andy Reid is going to have this team prepared offensively with a couple gadgets. You're going to have Hollywood back in there. You obviously have Hollywood now. You have DeAndre Hopkins, Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce in the playoffs. I think the Chiefs get to that 31 point.
I get it.
I mean, Houston's defense looked pretty damn good last week. I'll go Kansas City 23-13.
Saturday night, Detroit Lions, Washington Commanders. Guys, I told you this earlier. I'm going to say it again. Lions 38, Commanders 13. I don't think this game's close. I think this game's going to be an absolute shell shock. I love the Lions in this football game. Easiest pick of the week.
I like the Lions 33-16 over Washington.
I like the Lions as well. I think it's going to be more of a high-scoring game, though. I got the Lions 41-24.
41-24. 17-point game. We talked about this game a little bit earlier. Just quick synopsis and then score prediction for Eagles, Rams. Guys, I think that Philadelphia controls the trenches. They control the line of scrimmage. I think that's so important in a football game. Do I think Nakobe Dean's going to be missed? Absolutely. Do I think the Rams make this game look closer than it should be? Absolutely. I like the Eagles in this one, 34-23. I think it's an 11-point win. I think the Eagles are never in real jeopardy of losing this football game. The Eagles, not one time did the Packers have the ball with an opportunity to take the lead in the entire game. I think the Rams will be in a very similar scenario. I like the Eagles 34-23.
I definitely think the Eagles win the game. I think Saquon has a huge day, probably scores twice, probably 150 plus. I think it's a nasty Saquon day, especially with the weather. I'll go. I think the weather tampers it down a little bit. I'll go 28-13 Philly.
I got a weird one here. I told you, I think it's going to come down to coaching decisions. I like the Eagles to win. I like them to win 29-20. I think you're going to be in a spot where Sirianni goes for 2, and McVay's going to be trying to chase the points there. I could see it being a 29-21 game as well, but I'm teetering on the 8 to 9 point. I think it's going to be a 2-point conversion somewhere in there that we're going to look at that ultimately puts the extra space there for the Eagles. I can win by 2 possessions. Go 29-20.
They're looking at 18 degrees and snow at kickoff.
Yep.
It's supposed to be cold for sure.
I'd save this game for last because we got to break it down a little bit more. If we go a little bit late, we go a little bit late. But the Buffalo Bills versus the Baltimore Ravens is your Sunday night main event. This is a game where, guys, I know that MVP votes are already in. I understand that MVP votes are already in before this game. This is the MVP in my book, whoever wins this football game. And it's not Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry versus Josh Allen. It's Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry versus Josh Allen and James Cook. Put some respect on that kid's name. This is going to be the football game of the weekend. The Ravens open up as a 1-point favorite. I think the Bills open up as a 1-point favorite. It got bet to Ravens -1. This is a pick 'em. This is going to be the game of the week. I think this game, you're looking old school, Chiefs, Bills, divisional round. This is that football game. It's in Buffalo this time instead of Baltimore. I think this is the highest scoring game of the week. Bet your offense. I think that these teams go back and forth, scoring touchdown after touchdown. Now, you know what that means. Go take the under. It's going to be a bunch of field goals. But I love this football game. I'll pick it last. Shall you? Who do you like in this game and why?
I want to pick Buffalo.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Baltimore.
Oh,
Why
so upset about it?
No, because it's like one of those things. Like, listen, like one. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, one of these two dudes has to get over the hump eventually. And
they don't. But
well, I mean, one of them's going to have a chance again. So, you know, one of them's going to win, and one of them's most likely going to go to KC and get a shot at the guy again. So, I like both of them. There's just we talked about James Cook, who I like. I've always liked Derrick Henry. It's one of those, like, I'm really looking forward to watching this game.
Yes.
Glad I don't have any skin in the game whatsoever with either one of these teams. Because I think it's gonna be a really good football game. I like Baltimore's consistency a little bit more. I like the run game. I think Lamar makes enough plays when he has to. I do think it's one of those dueling games. I think they both go nuts. I really do. I agree with everything you said, Gene. I just like Baltimore's defense a little bit more when push comes to shove as well. And I think Derrick Henry, for as much as people were like Baltimore's going to get him and maybe got one good year left and they got to, watch how they give him the ball and his carries and everything. And he looks like he's 26 again, dude. I mean, he's that guy is just genetically different. He looked great last week against a really good defense. I think it's a field goal game. Weather looks like it's going to be cold, no precipitation though. So, no crazy Buffalo advantage in that aspect. I'll go Baltimore 34-31.
Well, I got a news flash here, and I'll go off on my ledge here. I don't think Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson have a crazy game. Like, I don't think either quarterback is going to impress you in the slightest. I think the way Baltimore's defense has been playing, I think they're going to really make it tough on Josh Allen. Since week 12, the Ravens have the best defense statistically in almost every defensive category. They've really figured it out since they've moved Marlon Humphrey into the slot and, had Kyle Hamilton, essentially gave Kyle Hamilton even more responsibility with what he's doing on the back end. And then, again, this is another matchup that we've seen play out earlier this year.
We did.
Neither Josh Allen nor Lamar Jackson, had a crazy day, but the difference maker was Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry was doing whatever he wanted to do against that Buffalo defense, and I think it's going to be more of the same. I think Baltimore realizes that they can rely on Derrick Henry. You saw it in the Steelers game. Lamar had an okay game, similar to Josh. He did everything you asked him to do, didn't make any mistakes, but it was Derrick Henry who was really running that show there. So for me, I do think this is going to be more of a lower scoring game because I think both teams are going to, as explosive as these guys are and as fun as they are to watch, I think both of these teams are going to try to slow down the game and really get it going in the running game. So I'm going to go with Baltimore. I like Baltimore to win. I'm going to go 23-16. I think it's going to be a tight game, but I just think it's going to be too much Derrick Henry in this one.
Well, you said it perfectly, Cottrell. The first time these teams played, Derrick Henry ran the ball 24 times for 200 yards. James Cook ran the ball 9 times for 39 yards. That cannot happen if Buffalo wants to win this football game. Absolutely cannot happen. Buffalo has to be able to run the football versus Baltimore to be able to win this game, right? Josh Allen got sacked, a couple big plays, turnovers. He lost a fumble in this game. And the Ravens started this game. Touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. And the first play of the game for the Ravens offensively, 87 yards to the house, Derrick Henry. That can't happen if Buffalo's going to win this football game. I'll say this. I do tend to agree with you that these teams will look a little bit different in this football game. But the one thing I'll say is, in Buffalo, I think Superman puts on his cape. And I think that Superman Sunday is Josh Allen. And no one quite circles the wagon like the Buffalo Bills. I got the Bills winning this one 34-31 on a walk-off field goal. I think we're looking at an all-timer. I could be wrong. I think this is the highest scoring game of the week. I love this football game. I can't wait to watch it. I'm going to watch it. The Eagles are already going to be in the NFC Championship game. I'm going to sit on my couch and relax and watch this football game and enjoy good football. I would never bet this football game ever. But I think Buffalo sneaks this one out in Orchard Park. All right, so that's what we got for playoffs. We're going to go UFC, little breakdown. Got a decent little card ahead of us. I'm not upset with it, right? Normally, I looked at this card a little while ago. I wasn't thrilled with it. Now, the way it's shaped out, I really do like it. Sarukian versus Makhachev should be a hell of a fight. Marab versus Umar. You got some really good fights on this card as a whole. So, Cottrell, where do you want to start with this one? I think the fun fight to start with is Yuri versus Jamal Hill. If we can just give a quick prediction of that, this is going to be an absolute banger of a fight. How do you think that fight goes?
I mean, neither one of these guys isn't going to walk out of the octagon. I mean, there's no shot this fight goes to decision. Both these guys are going to be throwing haymakers at each other. Prochazka doesn't protect his face, so I mean, if Jamal Hill wants to win this fight, he's going to have to knock out Prochazka because he's going to just keep attacking. So, I mean, one way or another, honestly, of all the fights on the entire card, I probably think this one's going to be the most exciting. Like, if you're just a casual UFC fan, this is the one that you want to watch. For me, I'm going to go with Prochazka here. I think Prochazka is just that guy that is, if anybody else wasn't named Alex Pereira in that light heavyweight division, Prochazka would be your champion. But I just think he's good. He's on the verge of elite. Obviously, he has some holes in his game, but he's on the verge of elite. But he can't be your champion because Alex Pereira is just too good. So I think Prochazka wins and puts himself even more of a limbo position in that division.
It's funny you say that. I'll go second here, and then we'll go to Shally. It's how each one of these fighters respond from a knockout. It is what it is, right? Both last fights, they got knocked out by Alex Pereira. I think Yuri is too stupid to respond poorly from a knockout. I think Yuri ends up winning this fight because I just think he doesn't give a shit. He's going to walk right in, chin first. Jamal Hill, I can see being a lot more cautious after the massive knockout he took from Alex Pereira. I like Yuri in this fight also. I just think that because Yuri's going to have that dumb, blind, just walk right into it. Doesn't matter. Give me Yuri Prochazka in this fight. Shall
I samurai. I don't care about getting hit in the head.
Yes, correct. That's exactly what I see it.
I'm going to go with Yuri as well. He keeps it just, we sit here and say how we think this is exactly going to go. He's one of those guys that's kind of always a little bit unpredictable. It goes a little bit different. He does a little bit something different that we're not expecting. He's absolutely going to get hit in the face. He has no problem with it, which is the weirdest thing in the world, especially for a combat sport. But, I mean, hey, do your thing. I agree with Cottrell. I think he's always going to be in that 2 to 3 range. That's where he's going to be. He's just good enough to stay there and beat other top level competition. Alex Prey is just a different beast right now, just on a different level. But I think Yuri's shown he can hang with those guys, and as long as he doesn't get too reckless and do something too stupid, I think he pulls this out somehow. So I'll go with Yuri.
Guys, I feel like it's weird for us not to talk about, and we'll get right into it now. But I think I don't understand just fully, and maybe you guys can help me just get this. It's really a tough one for me to. Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano. I think that's going to be a hell of a fight. But I just want to kind of give a prediction there. I actually think Beneil Dariush wins that fight, even though Renato is favored in the fight. But when you look at this next fight, Merab versus Umar, I looked at the odds of this fight, and I had a triple take. And anybody else have a triple take looking at the odds of this fight?
I haven't even seen the odds yet, to be honest.
What do you think the odds are on this fight?
The odds should be Merab like minus 330.
Okay.
They're probably Umar gets a lot of love for whatever reason. I'd probably say Merab like minus 165.
What do you think they're at, Shot? You see it yet?
I saw them already. I was equally as surprised as you, so I won't steal your thunder here. You can go ahead.
Umar is a minus 300 favorite in this fight.
Oh shit!
I just don't understand it. And maybe it's one of those things where they know something I don't. I think Merab absolutely takes it to Umar Nurmagomedov. Maybe I'm nuts. Maybe I'm crazy. Merab looks like an absolute killer. And there's no one that Umar Nurmagomedov has went against that has the absolute killer that Merab has in him. Merab is just different, man. I don't see this fight going the way the odds tell you. Give me Merab, and give me Merab by a vicious second round TKO.
See, I was with you until then. I will say this: as much as I talked about Prochazka Hill being the most entertaining fight, I think if you were a casual UFC fan, this is your snack break. This is when you go put the popcorn in the microwave, you go put your clothes in the dryer. If you're just up, you're just doing household chores. This is the fight to do that in, because these guys are going to be very tactical. Merab's typically not a guy to knock you out. He's more of a, if it's not your cup of tea, he's more of a boring fighter. Yep. And Umar is really the same way. Umar is going to kill you with persistence, and ultimately kill you with just pressure. And obviously Merab is going to do that as well. So, I mean, stylistically, this is a phenomenal fight there. Umar has been very dominant in all of his wins, most recently against Corey Sandhagen, which is a really good fighter in that division. But for me, I mean, I have to go with Merab here. I think Merab is just we talked about, to bring a college football reference in, we talk about Penn State, Notre Dame being Penn State light. Well, for me, Umar is really Merab light. Like, I think Umar is a very good fighter, and I think he can be a champion, and he will be a champion. But I just think Merab does literally everything that Umar wants to do, but better. So I'm rolling with Merab here. I think it'll be a decision, but I think it'll go 3-2 Merab. I think it'll be a close fight, but I do think this is your snooze fest of the night.
Hear me out, though, Cottrell, and you might think I'm crazy here, but I think that Umar is going to try to grapple and wrestle like he does in most of his fights. And he's going to try to put that pressure. He's a kickboxer that wrestles. And I think that Merab's big advantage is in striking. I know he's not a huge striker. I get it. But his advantage in this fight is to not wrestle with Umar Nurmagomedov. And I think that's why I think Umar gets very frustrated with the skill that Merab has of defending the takedown and not being out wrestled, and ends up walking into a right. That's why I think that TKO comes from. But I get it. You could be right. You obviously are a little bit more seasoned than I am talking about these fighters. But
I just think both these guys are very stubborn. That's all. Like, I think they both will want to they want to prove a point. They want to go to the other's wheelhouse and try to prove a point there.
Shally, how do you see this fight going?
I like Merab as well. I was, like I said, when I looked it up, just start looking into it, and I saw the odds. I was equally as shocked as you were. Not that he, Umar couldn't be the favorite, but to be that heavy, I was just blown away. I just like Merab's overall game better. I really do. I think he has more ways to win, and to Cottrell's point, I do think they're both stubborn, but I think being the champion now, I'm hoping they drill into his head a little bit, like, hey, certain things you got to do. You want to keep the belt. You have to stick to the game plan sometimes, and not try to kind of go off script or not just go out and prove a point. The whole goal is for you to win the fight and keep the belt. So I think Merab somehow gets it done. I do agree with Trell as well. I think it has a chance to be a boring fight. I do. Definitely has a chance to go to decision. I'll go Merab 4th round stoppage, and agree with Gene. Hopefully he gets caught and we get a little bit of excitement. But this could be a snoozer, depending on how it plays out.
I get it. And just for those looking at the records and saying, okay, well, one guy's 18-0, the other guy's, I think he's like 20-4. But Merab hasn't lost a fight in 7 years. So it's not like this is a 20-4 that you need to sleep over. All right, or 18-4, sorry. And then, Shally, start us off for the main event of the evening. Arman Tsarukyan versus Islam Makhachev. This is guys, I'm excited. I'm excited about the overall card. Islam is obviously the heavy favorite in this fight, minus 380. Tsarukyan's plus 280. But I think Tsarukyan is a very, very live dog. Your thoughts?
I like Islam here, but I agree with a lot of your sentiments. I think this has the chance to be a very good fight, and I think it has a chance. I would agree. I think Tsarukyan is a decent live dog here. I think there's ways for him to win this fight. I think he can catch Islam. It's hard for me to pick against the man. He's that force right now, and until I really see somebody stand in front of him and stuff him and then get the better of him on the feet for 25 minutes and beat the hell out of him and actually like convincingly beat him, it's hard. It's just hard to pick against him. So I'm gonna go with Islam, but to your point, this is obviously, it's obviously early in 2025, but main event wise, this is more of the ones I've been more excited about in a long time to watch. I think it's a very good fight.
Control, tell us how this fight went the first time.
So Islam won. I forgot the method of victory though.
Decision.
It was a close
on the spot.
It was a close fight though. I just couldn't remember how it ended, but Islam did ultimately get the best of Arman, and that's really why everyone wanted to see this fight happen again. This was like the one thorn. Obviously, Islam has one loss on his resume from like way back when. I think it was 2015 or 2016. But outside of that, like this Arman fight was the one that really had Islam up against it. So this is what people really wanted to see. Arman's obviously been on the tear with what he's done in that division. And I do think that Arman is, since Islam has had the belt, this is probably going to be his toughest challenge to date. Not to say that he hasn't fought better fighters, but just stylistically what Arman can do and, where he can take this fight. I think this is probably his toughest challenge yet. With that said, though, I think Islam is just on another planet right now. I think he is your pound for pound best fighter in the UFC. And with his ability to take the fight to the ground and just dominate there, and also, just what he has striking, like he's no slouch on his feet as well. I just think that ultimately
he doesn't want to strike with Tsarukyan, though.
He doesn't want to. You're right. He doesn't want to stand and bang with Tsarukyan. However, with that said, he can. That's not how he wants to win, but he can. And I think if he can mix that in, timing up his takedowns, and putting that pressure on Tsarukyan, essentially just making him work to have success in that fight. That's where Islam wants to be, because Islam is a cardio guy. He's going to always have the cardio to go long in these fights. Ultimately, for me, I like Islam here. I think it'll be a fourth round submission. I think he catches Arman, just crazy pace, things like that. Catches Arman, gets him to the ground where he least expects it on a takedown, and then ultimately submits him to end this fight, and he remains as champion.
I like exactly what you just said, and I'll explain to you why. The first time these guys fought, Islam tried standing with Sarukian in the first round, and Sarukian absolutely hit him. He outstruck him in the fight, but what Islam did is, as soon as Arman's cardio just started to slow just a little, as soon as his speed started to slow just a little, Islam just took over the fight. He fully wrestled. He got on top of him. He had 6 minutes of control in a 3-minute fight, and I don't think he had 1 minute of control in the first round. So he absolutely pinned him down and overcame a first round in which a lot of people gave the first round to Sarukian. It was one of the only rounds that Islam had lost on some people's scorecards. Islam is the better fighter. And if this fight gets to the third and fourth round, Islam's cardio will absolutely do Sarukian in. But look out early, because I'm telling you right now, Islam's chin's been tested by Dustin. It's been tested by Alex Volkanovski. It's been tested before. It's going to get tested again in that first round. That first round flurry that Sarukian comes out with, you might be saying, and new. Ultimately, I lean with Cantrell. I like the fourth round stoppage for Islam Makhachev. I think that if the fight would have continued into the fourth round the first time they fought, Islam would have stopped in the fourth round that fight. So I'll go Islam. I'll go fourth round submission, and I'll agree 100% with my counterpart.
I think the one thing, too, that's interesting about that fight is, I mean, and I don't know if one of you guys are using it for, you got to be kidding me, but they wasn't pissed off. Frontier Airlines wasn't pissed off Khabib. So now he's got to deal with that. Like Arman, they're going to be pissed off over there, and they're going to be doing whatever they can to make sure they break down Arman. So, but
me and Shally might be using the same "you got to be kidding me" this week.
Oh, you brother! Oh my God, one.
All right, well, let's get into "you got to be kidding me." Control. I have a little bit of a rant, so.
All right, well, I'll make mine. I'll make mine quick because it's been. We really don't have that much information on it right now, but I'm going to stay local. Go to the Ohio State University. They had a player kicked off their team. Walk on. He's been with the team since 2022. Caden Davis. It's probably their most famous on social media. On the whole team. He's got like 250,000 TikTok followers, whatever. Kicked off the team. The reason hasn't officially come out yet. It's essentially conduct detrimental to the team. Don't really know what that means at this point. However, the crazy part about it is that he had been kicked off the team apparently like quietly for like a week, 2 weeks now. And apparently while Ohio State was traveling to the Cotton Bowl to play Texas, he was posting on his social media as if, he's on the plane with the team and they're making their travel to Texas. Meanwhile, he's posting old pictures from last year's Cotton Bowl when Ohio State played Missouri in the non-playoff game. And Ohio State had a couple players like literally have to comment on it like, dude, you're not even on the team anymore. Like, let it go. Like, it's just because he's trying to hang on to Ohio State's coattails. And force foul, things like that. So the entire situation, this coming up right now for the national championship, I'm hoping it's not a distraction. Doesn't seem to be, but Caden Davis getting dismissed off the team and then ultimately acting like you're still with the team with all the pictures and the videos.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, it's a good one. I don't know if this guy is going to get boner of the year. I don't know if we'll be talking about him in a year from now, but Eagles fan Ryan Caldwell, the guy that went viral for his comments towards the Packers fan. I say this to you guys all the time. Guys, do I like going to football games? Do I like going to football games?
No.
I hate it. And part of the reason I hate going to football games is I can't be around drunk idiots. You got to be kidding me is not just Ryan Caldwell, right? It's not just a guy that yelled, "You're a dumb, ugly C word" towards a Packers fan because she was happy at Josh Jacobs' run and clapping. You got to be kidding me is for every guy that sat in the stands and watched that happen and allowed that guy that had the video record and Ryan Caldwell go, "What are you going to do about it? Turn around, watch the game." That is the biggest disgrace. If you're a man and you watch another man disparage a woman in front of you and don't do anything about it, you're almost as guilty as the guy that did it. Ryan Caldwell's lost his job. He's known throughout social media. But you know who's not known through social media? All the guys that stood around and watched that happen and didn't allow anything to happen. Didn't do anything about it. It's a joke. It's a disgrace. And guys, yeah, I'm tired of hearing it. Well, this happens at every stadium. It just gets blown up because it's an Eagles fan. It happens too many times in Philadelphia. And I'm sick of it because I'm a diehard Eagles fan that loves the Eagles. But I can't defend behavior like that. It's despicable. And then the fact that he breaks his silence recently. He just broke his silence about it. And he says, this is what he says. And Caldwell explained in a statement to the Post on the video that was circulating online. It does not reflect the full context of what transpired, and my actions were not without provocation. Then he releases a full apology. I want a sincere apology to Mrs. Keller for those words, and to my wife, family, and friends, my former employer, and my colleagues, Packers fans. He has this whole written out statement of an apology after saying it wasn't without provocation. Apologies with stipulations are not apologies. They're manipulation. It's manipulation, and it's an absolute joke. You can't be a grown man and watch another grown man yell at a woman calling her an ugly, dumb C word. They're recording this guy, and then the guy goes, don't call her an ugly whatever. And the guy goes, what are you going to do about it? Turn around, tries bullying the guy. Knowing you have 30,000 Eagles fans behind you. You're a coward. And for the guy standing around that allowed that to happen, you're a coward too. That's wrong. And that's why I don't go to football games, man. I'd rather watch it on my couch in the comfort of my living room. Guy's a jerk. And he's got everything that's deserved to him. He lost his job. His wife and kids are embarrassed of him. That sucks. You deserve it, right? Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. But the people that won't get what they deserve are the people that sat there and watched this guy berate a woman and let him bully this couple for rooting for the other team. I'm all about defending home turf. That's not how you do it. It's incorrect. And so for this week, not only Ryan Caldwell, but the fans that sat around and watched that happen.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
I mean, if the girl's husband ain't gonna stand up for her, I mean,
what is he gonna do? He fights her. He fights that guy. Gets beat up by 20,000 Eagles fans.
then I get beat up by 20,000 Eagles fans.
I'm with you. But like that
I'm not gonna sit there. I'm not gonna sit there at my cell phone and record it and let some guy yell at my wife. Not gonna happen.
You're right. I agree with you, but I don't know that guy's situation, and I guess what he did.
There's a lot that's come out. None of it excuses anything that Caldwell did, but the guy kind of like it's kind of his thing.
Preemptive.
He's like
a GoFundMe.
Yeah, he's GoFundMe's. There's a lot that squeaked out here in the last like couple hours. Again, doesn't excuse anything Caldwell did because Caldwell didn't know about any of that stuff. That's just who that guy is. He's a scumbag, like Gene said. But this dude from Green Bay is kind of a slimy fellow himself.
I don't know, bro. I get it. I can't. I couldn't as an adult male.
I get it.
Well, any final comments, gentlemen?
No. Big, another huge weekend of big football. I'm excited.
Huge weekend. Already took off Monday. So it's. I'm hoping.
Are you gonna be liquored up?
What was that?
Are you gonna be liquored up?
No, I'm trying to be good. You know, it's January. You know, I'm trying to be better for myself. You know, hitting the gym. I don't have room in my body right now for all that.
I'm a little excited. I got the first practice with the boys tomorrow night, so that'll be a good time. I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I have just a couple things I want to end the show with. I just tagged 4 really important people. Happy birthday to my Aunt Lori. Her birthday was just this Sunday. She super supporter of the show, always shares us out, gives us a listen. gives us a download. I love you, Aunt Laura. Aunt Joy, happy birthday today. Today is her birthday. My Aunt Joy was one of the first people to buy a hoodie for my Uncle Bill. When we had the old school Wire2Wire hoodies, she's always looking to support, send money to the Wire2Wire page. I appreciate you, Aunt Joy. Love you. And then two of my very, very best friends have the same exact birthday. Daniel Dempsey Jr., friend of the show, constantly in the chat. Always, he's one of the greatest human beings ever. His birthday comes up before our next show. So happy birthday to you, Danny. Love you. I seen your post the other day. Couldn't be more happy for you, brother. Happy birthday. And then Nick Hurtado. This is a guy, him, his son Nico, his wife Tiffany, constantly liking the TikToks, sharing the page. Tiffany's not even a big sports fan, always sharing. Happy birthday, Nick. Love you. I appreciate your family, everything that you guys have done for the show. So 4 absolutely awesome birthdays this week. I love you guys. I appreciate your support. And I appreciate your family. Your family to me. Not just friends. Family and family. So I'll end the show on that note.
Happy birthday to all.
Happy
to
birthday.
all
a good night.
A good night.